Right now at 6, a local garage invites people to learn a bit more about how to take care of their car. Plus, a local coffee shop hosts a fundraiser to help some students on a special trip. Also, a local art studio hosting a family painting event in downtown Joplin. And Hideout Harley-Davidson hosts an appreciation day for area first responders.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Authorities released the name of the victim in Friday's shooting in Jasper County. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office has identified the victim as 50-year-old Brian Smith. Authorities say he lived at that residence. Officials say there will be no charges filed at this time and that an autopsy has been scheduled for Monday. At a recap, on Friday, deputies responded to a report of an altercation on South Malang Road around noon and found a 50-year-old man dead in the yard with an apparent gunshot wound. They did detain a 75-year-old man for questioning. A little bit warmer today than what it has been, but much cloudier. Nick Kelly joins us.
Yeah, and again, like you said, Chris, despite all that cloud cover, that did not stop us from pushing into the lower 50s for this afternoon. So that meant underneath the cloud cover, even though we're not seeing a lot on the radar network, that's just trying to keep an eye on measurable rainfall. But we've had some periods of drizzle off and on throughout parts of the day, and the drizzle's actually picking back up, especially outside of our shop in our part of the four-state area. That's because we're finally getting on the backside of the system overall. We've got a couple cold fronts on the way through. That's going to keep some drizzle and some showers in the forecast tonight. Then we're going to finally clear things out as we go into tomorrow. For the time being, though, mid-40s in our northwestern counties and lower 50s pretty much elsewhere across the region. But we got that south wind still in play at 10 to 20 miles per hour. But look at that north wind kicking in across the rest of Kansas. That is going to take us from midnight highs around 48 to 20s and 30s to start Sunday morning out, Chris. So we're going to dry out for our Sunday, but looking cold for our Sunday. We'll break that down in the rest of the forecast here in a bit.
All right, Nick, thank you. Well, if you're needing some extra help learning some basic car maintenance, Higher Power Garage was the place to be. The shop hosted a basic auto maintenance class free of charge. The class covered things like checking oil, service intervals, warning lights on your dash, and even how to change a tire, among many other topics.
With schools not doing driver's education anymore, a lot of single parent families, things like that. We're just seeing a lot of people that don't understand why you change the oil in their car, how to check the oil, how to maintain what's required to maintain their car.
The Higher Power is hosting an all-women's class comprised of church members next weekend. They're a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping people with transportation. The city of Pittsburgh has opened its burn site for 2022. The site is located 1.5 miles east of Rouse on Quincy Street. Officials say it's for tree limbs and brush only. No trash, landscape timbers, treated wood, or other things like that. They say that the wood must be in its natural form. And in case of inclement weather, you can call 620-232-PARK, that's 7275, for updated information on the site. And the site is open the second Saturday of each month from 8 to noon. The Mount Hope Church of Christ Coffee Shop is helping raise money to send some of their students to a special event. Winterfest is taking place in Arlington, Texas, which hosts students from a number of churches nationwide. The junior high and high school students at Mount Hope were working hard today to raise funds so they can get down there. Each student needs to raise $140 to cover travel costs.
It's put on by Oklahoma Christian University. They have one in Arlington and in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But yeah, it's a weekend event where we get to go and do lots of worship, hear some good teaching, and I think the kids are also excited about playing video games in the hotel. But yeah, we could go down there and have a good time with about 2,000 other people.
If you didn't make it to today's fundraiser, you can contact the church and make a donation through them through this upcoming weekend. Create and Sip Studio hosted a family paint event today. Today's theme was Man in the Moon and ran from 2 to 4 this afternoon. Parents were able to bring their little Picassos along to create the painting.
Today is our family paint. I'm instructing a fun little canvas that pretty much all ages and all experience levels would be able to paint through, and just having a fun time doing it.
Now, Coleman says due to COVID, it's important to register online to ensure everyone can be seated comfortably. Hideout Harley-Davidson held a Law Enforcement Appreciation Day today. The shop invited law enforcement and first responders from across the community to come out and enjoy a free lunch. In addition to the lunch, which was a nacho bar, by the way, those first responders could enter their names into a raffle drawing for a number of prizes. Organizers say it's great to be able to give back to the community.
We have a lot of familiar faces, and then when we have new faces come out that haven't been here before, that are part of the local community just by word of mouth, it's great just to see anyone that maybe is not necessarily associated with motorcycles to be able to still come out here and hang out and enjoy anything that we have going on.
Next weekend, if you're ready to brave the cold, Hideout is hosting a polar bear ride. If you're interested, the ride is about an hour long. You can contact Hideout Harley-Davidson for more information. So far, the new year is bringing new pandemic records and more challenges for many Americans struggling with illness and loss. But there is hope. The Omicron-driven outbreak could start winding down as quickly as it began. CBS News correspondent Michael George reports from New York.
The Omicron variant spent the first week of 2022 spreading fast across the U.S. Children under 5 who aren't yet eligible for vaccines are being hospitalized at the highest rates of the pandemic so far. For all ages, the COVID-19 national daily average topped 614,000 new cases. In Florida, newly reported infections are shattering records. The spike is straining hospital resources in many states, including Missouri.
Every place is full. And we're back where we started, where everybody's looking all over the country for beds.
On Saturday, New York State announced 40 hospitals will stop providing non-urgent elective procedures for at least 2 weeks to deal with the influx of COVID cases.
But the storm's going to pass. I mean, that's the great news, and what we're seeing out of other countries is that it's a fast, big peak, but then we've also seen it also start to decline fairly rapidly compared to some of the other strains.
Until then, the highly transmissible Omicron variant continues to disrupt emergency services and schools. In a standoff with the city of Chicago, the teachers union there is pitching a plan for remote learning until mid-January. And it's taking a toll on service industries, including air travel and cruise lines. Royal Caribbean said it's pausing some operations and canceling reservations out of an abundance of caution over the coming weeks. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Now, Chicago public school classes have been canceled since Wednesday in the dispute focused on remote versus in-person learning and other COVID safety measures. And we take this time now to honor one of our many four-state heroes. Raymond Swain served in the Navy during World War II in the Philippines. His hometown, Baxter Springs. We're proud to recognize Raymond Swain, tonight's four-state hero. Still ahead, check your refrigerators. There's a ground beef recall. We'll tell you what you need to know. Plus, a new study from the CDC identifies a possible link between COVID and diabetes in children. More than 28,000 pounds of ground beef have been recalled due to possible E. coli contamination. The meat was sold at Winco, Albertsons, Kroger, and Walmart stores. The ground beef was produced on December 20th, 2021 and shipped to retailers in Arizona, California, Nevada, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. The recalled items have an establishment number of EST 965. You can find that number either inside the USDA mark of inspection or next to the timestamp and use or freeze-by date. All of the recalled products have a use freeze-by date of January 11th of this year. USDA warns against eating the products. Instead, you should either throw them away or return them to the place of purchase. A study from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention suggests a possible link between COVID-19 and an increased risk in diabetes diagnosis in children. Researchers studied more than 500,000 COVID patients under the age of 18 and found children who had COVID-19 were more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes less than a month later. Children were tested in two groups. In the first group, the risk of new diabetes diagnosis was 166% higher. The risk was 31% higher in the second group and was not seen in children under the age of 12. Researchers say there are a variety of possible reasons for the increased risk, including differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes and the weight of the child. U.S. Department of Agriculture is pumping an estimated $750 million into school meals programs nationwide. The agency said Friday that schools will receive an additional 25 cents per lunch to counter higher food costs and other issues. Schools have been struggling to serve students meals amid the spike in food prices and supply chain disruptions. In recent months, the USDA provided $1 billion to schools to purchase food, as well as $300 million to states to buy food to be distributed to schools. And an additional $200 million was allocated for a new program to support farmers supplying food to schools. The agency is also ensuring schools will not be penalized if they cannot meet meal standards due to supply chain issues. The impact of vehicle pollution on children, and the CDC has updated its recommendation for COVID vaccine booster shots. Michael George has some of the week's top health stories.
The CDC has expanded eligibility for Pfizer's COVID-19 booster shot to include all Americans 12 years and older at least 5 months after they've been fully vaccinated. According to the CDC, the 7-day average of daily cases nearly doubled from the previous week. Global dementia cases are expected to triple from an estimated 57 million in 2019 to 153 million in 2050, according to a new analysis in The Lancet. While largely due to population growth and aging, the authors also cited smoking, obesity, and education level among risk factors that must be addressed. And pollution from traffic is causing nearly 2 million children a year to develop asthma, mostly in urban areas. The study published by George Washington University found that nitrogen dioxide, a chemical found in tailpipe emissions, is a leading cause of asthma in children. Those are some of the week's top health stories. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
Later on the KOAM News at 6, maybe a home for Elsa and Anna? We'll tell you about some ice castles up north.
But first, we're in the 40s and 50s right now. We will not be by the time Sunday rolls around. We'll break that down. The rest of the forecast next. Despite all the cloud cover that picked up and some areas of drizzle off and on throughout the day, that did not stop temperatures from thankfully warming up after a cold Friday to get this weekend started. We had highs in the mid-30s yesterday. Midnight lows very early on in the upper 20s to lower 30s, but look at how warm it got so far today. Warm, relatively speaking, at least, but still 52 degrees at the 5 o'clock hour at Joplin Regional. And again, that's despite all the cloud cover that was locked in place since late last night. We saw the leading edge of that moisture work in this morning. Again, temperatures did not stay below freezing very long, so thankfully any freezing drizzle we did have very short-lived, and the rest of the day was just trying to keep an eye on areas of drizzle that have managed to pop up. No measurable rain on the radar yet, but we're not quite done with the storm system yet. We'll have some rain chances to contend with tonight, but we will dry out just in time for Sunday. But even though we dry out, we're going to turn quite colder as we wrap up the weekend tomorrow. After that, I've seen a lot of 40s and 50s throughout much of next week. Pardon me for that typo. I should space between of and next, but you get the idea there. Then we've got our next storm system sticking with Doug's pattern. That will bring us some rain chances, maybe a little snow too, by the time Friday and Saturday rolls around. In the short term, though, we're looking okay overall. Definitely cloudy around Joplin, maybe a few areas of drizzle, but thankfully it's just drizzle, nothing frozen. Certainly because of this 53 reading at the airport. A southwest wind of 16 is still making it feel like 53 degrees, so no wind chills yet as well. Most of us, though, from the mid-40s to lower 50s, maybe a couple odd spots like Carthage and Neoso actually checking in at 54 degrees. It's all due to that southerly wind between 10 and 20 miles per hour throughout the day. But look at that northwest wind ready to roll right across the Kansas Turnpike. That's one of a few cold fronts on the way in, and that will eventually take us from 50s this evening, 48 for midnight highs, and then right down to the 20s and 30s as we head towards Sunday morning. So let's break down where everything is right now. You can see the bulk of the moisture with this system overall well to the east and southeast of us. That's where we have some rain and thunderstorms going on. Here are the two cold fronts ready to pass on through and turn us colder for Sunday. And not to mention this upper low now over Denver wanting to bring the cooler side of the jet back our way. But this building upper level ridge, that's going to come to the rescue as we get next week underway. So in the short term, we'll watch for areas of drizzle and mostly cloudy skies through the rest of the evening. And as the cold front rolls on through, maybe just enough lift to bring in maybe some scattered showers into the mix, but it'll keep the chances for drizzle going throughout a good portion of the overnight. But once we hit sunrise Sunday morning, definitely the rest of the morning ahead, we're going to dry out, and eventually we'll see skies turn partly to mostly sunny as we go through tomorrow afternoon. 32 in the morning, but only 35 by noon, 37 for the afternoon. That's it, because of that north wind really kicking in as we head into Sunday afternoon. As far as additional rain goes, maybe a couple tenths of an inch of rain, not looking like a big deal. But again, this upper level ridge, even though it kind of fades away, it comes to the rescue through early part of next week. That means we'll go from 37 tomorrow afternoon to 45 Monday, 52 Tuesday. We'll be pushing into the mid to upper 50s Wednesday through Friday, Chris. But again, even though we're dry for a good portion of next week, sticking with Doug's pattern, we'll see rain, maybe some wintry weather try to return by Friday and Saturday next weekend.
Not a bad forecast overall. It's nice and mild this week.
Yeah, we just got to get past a cold Sunday, then we'll look pretty good.
We do. Nick, thank you so much. Turning sports, it's Saturday, but the Chiefs are in action today.
Well, it's nice to get an extra day of games. Kansas City in Denver this afternoon for their final regular season game. Those details coming up. Plus, a rematch of last year's Kaminsky Classic Championship. Webb City and Joplin hit the floor in the title game. Highlights next. We've got a rematch in the championship game of the Kaminsky Classic. Joplin hits the floor against Webb City in the title game. Last year, the Cardinals beat the Eagles, so Joplin looking for some revenge. Look at this. Dupree Jackson pulls out the moves. Cardinals jump out to a big lead. Joplin stronger in the second, always right. Drains the three. He leads the Eagles with 24. The response, Caden Turner gets the bucket through traffic. 15 points, 8 boards in the game for him. Back to right, gets the steal, makes the uncontested three. Joplin trails by 4 at half. In the third, Rotes aggressive to the basket for 2. He's also in double digits. Other way now, all right, lays it in. He finishes with 18. Joplin gets their first lead with under a minute left in the game. They pull off the win, 55-52. Carl Junction and Nevada meet in a consolation game, each looking for their first win of the tournament. Nevada gets by CJ 66-63 in overtime. Evan Rhea scores a game-high 29 points for the Tigers. Also a nice day for a few Bulldogs. Kyler Perry drops 22. Josh Corey with 15, and Aiden Bard finishes with 11 points, 9 boards. Wichita State is 9-4 this season with a chance to make a statement today on the road against 12th-ranked Houston. The Shockers haven't beaten a top 25 team on the road since 2018. Fabian White Jr. takes the pass, hits the triple. Later in the first half, Clarence Jackson spins, hits the tough shot to make it a 4-point game. After the break, White Jr. in the corner drains the three. Cougars extend their lead to 8. Josh Carlson gets the inside pass for the dunk plus the foul. Big play. Carlton records a double-digit lead now for Houston. Taze Moore baseline slam. Houston wins 76-66. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the road in Denver today for their regular season finale. The Chiefs still have a lot on the line. They're vying for the #1 seed, and here's how they can do it. The Chiefs must win today, and the Titans must lose to the Texans tomorrow. Now, Nick Bolton gave the Chiefs a late lead when he recovered a fumble and returned it 86 yards to the house. Chiefs up 28-24 late in the fourth. We're back right after this.
The Ice Castles in the Twin Cities welcome back guests on Friday. The attraction returned to New Brighton after the pandemic forced the company behind the castles to take a season off. Features tunnels, caverns, and slides, all lit in an array of colors. Took a team of about 20 ice artisans about 8 weeks to create this. Depending on the weather, the castles could last through early March. Depending on the weather around here sometimes, you could get something like that could last about that long too, maybe even into April if we get a really cold season.
Yeah, fortunately though, this cold snap that's on the way for Sunday, it's only going to be around 4 Sunday. We'll have 20s and 30s to start tomorrow morning out, but we'll dry out throughout the course of the day. Too bad we'll only make it to 37, but we're back in the mid-40s Monday and 50s, so we're a good portion of next week.
Nick, thank you. Big game for the Chiefs tonight.
Yep, still down to the wire now. I think we have about 2 minutes left in that one. And a great win for Joplin as well over Webb City. They'll play again on Tuesday, which is super exciting.
Cool.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much. That's our time for now. We'll see you back here at 9 and 10. Thanks for making us part of your night.
salon service